That was perfect. Perfect as always. Abe, thank you. It is episode 80 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. As always, Affluent, how are you doing?
I'm happy to be here. Happy to be co-hosting with you. We got this is our the second to last before the end of the year, um, and strange things are happening. I really appreciate. I think my experience in this world where it's commercialism is not at the forefront of my life. I'm grateful to find different ways to separate from that. Um, I'm grateful to have community and folks that I can relate to. I'm grateful to gather with a group of friends, show up with stuff, and then leave with less stuff. I always like um, to navigate that way, in the spirit of giving, and it's not always easy to be in conflict with people you care about, and I'm grateful to have open lines of communication to where understanding can happen. I think that's something that's necessary in communities that open lines of honest, kind communication occurs, and in that spirit, I think it takes a lot of listening. So in the spirit of listening, how you feeling today, Cineo? Um, how are things in this world today for you?
Yeah, thank you for giving that insight and sharing that. Definitely is appreciated and insightful. For me, looking at the hurdles in front of me, changing my perspective, changing how I receive it. The holidays is always an emotional time. It's a heavy time. This is around the time my mother passed. And so keeping in mind my focus and my discipline to self care, to maintaining a sense of mental health, a sense of physical health, a sense of well being, really appreciating and taking the time to reflect, but also be proactive, right? It's like a active healing, right? Like it's not just the rest. Sometimes it's also what you actively do to engage and pursue healing. And so that's where I'm at right now is that
Mm-hmm.
place of, just being mindful, right? Getting my balance of rest and activity, really refining that. Just because, yeah, being a part of a community, right? There's many communities that I exist within, right? Some are communities that I receive healing from. Some communities I do more contribution in healing to. And so hearing you talk about, giving to and what do you take away, especially in the context of a community that you find joy in. It's always good to see what people bring to the community, what they decide to share, right? Because you
Right.
learn or you're reminded of who people are, what they're about, what they prefer to show you, what they want to bring, right? And I think there's joy in that. I almost I can't help, given today and the days that have transpired, to give an acknowledgement to the trolls who are not toxic and harmful, but mischievous, deceitful in the most entertaining way. It is so appreciated when the trolls are flexing their muscles, when they're showcasing their abilities, and you can laugh at it. There's some extremes when it comes to people who troll, but when there's people who have that balance, man, I can appreciate that balance. That balance is so welcomed. So yeah, that's how I'm doing.
That's what's up. It's great to, I think, be in a space of self-actualization. Knowing what you prefer, but also knowing the way you show up. Impacts people, and being honest about that, and how that impact, you know, benefits or harms folks, and really, where you may struggle or where others may struggle because of, you know, your gifts or talents, um, and also where folks, find joy and encouragement and support, um, from your skill sets as well. Um, Been spending time in this, commercial space, um, in the digital marketplace, and it can be time consuming because what the a lot of the medium in which you know information passes is very communal, and it's a lot of exchange happening to gather information, to give information, to learn more about how people are navigating and functioning, and with all of that, there's still a balance that needs to be made within the analog world, the analog experience, interacting with everyday people or people that you interact with in real life. Um, and I think, however you spend your time is, the real life. Um, like wherever it takes you, it's a real life. Whether focus on going on vacation or focusing on a life that you don't need vacation from, you know, the time you spend, is your real life. And as we navigate and find what's real to us, and choose the relationships that are real to us, I think it's always on us to look at our investments in that time and say, does this have real value to me? And I think real value doesn't mean a value of depth, but a value of, practicality and definition, where you can have, financial value and functional value and emotional and spiritual value and social value and physical value, and they can all mean different things to the the facets of our lives, and some have multiple um, facets that they overlap with that cover multiple things, right? Say, if I read this book, it'll help me get it'll help me pass this test. Passing this test will help me get a certification. Getting this certification will help me service a certain type of hurt certain demographic of client. That puts food on my table and my family's table. The knowledge is great, but providing for my family is important as well. And when I think about the internal pressure of being a black male in America, or on Earth. Like some of that pressure is adopted, some of that is internal, some of it is assimilated, some of it is native to me. Um, and when it's not native, I think I have to be honest with myself about, you know, why do I let that pressure, impact me, influence me? And then at the same time, I have to look at responsibility and say, do I need to have pressure to engage and take ownership of the responsibility? Um, do I need to bring the pressure along just to show up in a way that honors the agreement and the role I choose to play, as a part of the family unit? I think America's like started working at 12 years old. There was there was none wasn't necessarily an agreement that my mother said you got to start paying rent now, or that you couldn't purchase a Nintendo 64. It was more, right? This is your money. Um, you sign this check. This is your bank account, and this is how you balance your check. Um, didn't really get into savings and how to double that money, triple that, 10x, 13x, 15x that money. Um, had to learn it, 20 years later. And I'm I continue to learn it and apply it as a part of a tribe. Say, I will show up in this way in the tribe to be a support. I don't like to use the term resource to talk about people being each other's resource, but I like to think of it more in a support role. It's like, how can I lift up or fill in the gaps, of the needs that are important within the community? Know what I mean?
Man, I appreciate you saying not just not just in the fact of like how you frame it and how you are able to like because the thing that happens when you say like the case of being a black man, what it triggers is it triggers a response. It triggers this memory.
Mm,
I remember going to my uncle's house. I was taking care of him. I would spend time with him because I knew in the Cineo multiverse. If you've been here for these past 80 episodes, or if you're new, again, I come from a family where a lot of people die, and it's in some old, some young, some you could see, some you didn't have a clue it was coming, right? And so for me, in that awareness of life, I realized that what I had value in, right, saying in terms of what you were bringing up around values, right? I
yeah,
valued the the history of my family, the historical steps taken for me to be here, right? Because there was things that were done that precede my existence that allow me to exist, and I want to know. I want to know those things because I see how that plays out for other people in other cultures when they have that ability to tap into what that is. I feel like it's empowering. It's empowering to me to just know what was accomplished, what was overcome, and it gives me pride in knowing that my life has a sense of infinity because what I can do or what I will do will manifest itself in the survival or the acceleration of my lineage, my offspring, or whoever is around me, the younger beings that share my DNA. And when you say that, like being a black man, right, and this almost like this tiered level of pressure, right? There's a societal pressure, there's a historical pressure, there's the context of this country and what that means, there's what we put on ourselves. And I remember going and cleaning up his bed and going behind his headboard and finding all these little wine bottles, these shot wine bottles, just so many of them, just one after the other, empty wine bottle. I even found a couple full ones. Was it just so many of them? And I knew that drinking was his thing. And anybody, everybody has their limits, everybody has their balance or their relationship with their consumption of anything. But, alcohol is a substance that some people engage in as a form of escapism or as a way to channel or deal with or experience something that only alcohol can give them. And in my family, I know more than enough of people who have a relationship that may hinge on uh, more so an addiction than it is a relationship of like, oh, this is for my health. This is because I'm dealing with a lot, or I got things going on, right? Like he lost his son at what I see as an early age, right? He didn't even his son didn't get to live or outlive his father, right? His father had to experience that and go through that process. Not to mention all the other things that go on, the different memories that he held on to. And I see that in some of my other family members. I see that in some other people where they could have accomplished a lot, done so much to provide, made so many strides in growing their family or securing their family. And yet there's this like sense of something else there, something else. And it's not to say that not other people, like other cultures, races, different genders can't face it. Everybody has their thing, right? But when you start to narrow in on the specific point of what that is and start to really dissect it, especially when you've had different experiences that are, you know, relatively exclusive to who you are, what you look like, where you come
Mm-hmm.
from, you start to identify like, man, there's some pain there. There's something going on, right? And then yeah, those pains they enhance your value system. Now, how you respond to those pains can also determine, right, the leverage or the balance you have in responding to what's hurting you or ailing you or causing harm, because harm is going to happen for some. For some, not so much. And so, yeah, when you say all those things around like having a job at 12, like it resonates with me because I remember like I was quick because I knew what it was like on Christmas to bargain, knowing that like that even if it wasn't asked of me, I had an awareness around our financial standing to know that what I'm going to ask for is going to be older than the newest thing, cheaper than
Mm-hmm.
the most expensive thing, right? I'm understanding that as a child, if I want to get something, that if I go for the latest and greatest, that I can only have the latest and greatest. So if I was to get something that is old, then I have the chance of getting more, right? Because I don't have a lot. And I've seen what having a lot is, and I want to have a little bit more. So what do? I bargain. I say, this is how much something costs in relative scope to what this costs. So I'm going to go for the cheaper thing, right? Because I know we ain't got it like that. So when I get a job at 12, immediately I'm like, oh, I can get that thing because it's mine. I earned it. I don't have to put the pressure on no one else. And it was like that sense of access, right? Of like, I don't have, I could be,
Mm-hmm.
I'm only limited by how much I make, not by what someone's giving me, right? It's not because someone is offering me a
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
gift. It's because I worked and I earned, and now I'm choosing to go and get this other thing or buy this thing, right? And so it's crazy how like easy it is because right, you talk about like the commercial side of things, And in my perspective,
Right.
I'm really redefining my relationship to consumerism, my identity in consumerism, because I see like, yeah, buying things grants me a certain level, a certain feeling, a certain uh sensation when I get something that I want, right? It's a sense of achievement, accomplishment, right? I did XYZ to get that thing. And then how many times can I replicate that, right? How many times can I say that's what I'm doing before it's just a bunch of bottles behind my headboard, right? How many times can I say before I'm not challenging the people around me to develop the discipline or the routines to have longevity over the, consumerism is the consumption aspect is to take in and then to, like, that's it. It's, after you take it in, it's done. It's over, right? It's a consumable good. It's not something that's meant for longevity. It's meant for pretty much disposable, right? It becomes trash or it becomes useless or it doesn't add value to your overall existence beyond your perception, your relationship that you define for it. And yeah, it's a trip because I'm like, man, like what? Like I remember them days of
Yeah.
working earnestly, eagerly to outwork, outperform, outmaneuver those around me. I still do it, but my purpose is different because I'm thinking of a future. I'm thinking of, like what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? Because you bring up a good point of like the time you put in and what you get out of it, right? And that since, Matrix is, coming out, right? This is a movie that
It's
encapsulates.
out.
It's out. Yeah, you're right. It's out now, right? And it encapsulates everything you're talking about between how we perceive our reality versus the perception of others' reality, right? Because it is your time. Now, others can judge and they can place a value on your time. We talked about this already many times over. We'll talk about it again because it is still in a continuing of perpetuity that your hour is definitely going to be decided in terms of its value or worth by others. Now, you can take that and you can shape it and make it something else, and you can change that value. But what you do with your time will get criticized. I can recall so many times when an adult in my life or other people be like, "Oh man, you wasting your time playing those games. Or you wasting your time doing that. Why you do that? Why you man, that's a waste of time." In their perspective, it is. In
Yeah.
me, there was a sense of entertainment, escapism, engagement that I derive pleasure from and that I have no regrets about. Now, when I take into others' perspectives, it can start to become varied in terms of like, wait, am I wasting my time? But then I have to
Mm.
really remind myself who I am and
Yeah.
what I find value in and what I appreciate and enjoy. Because yeah, some people want out of the system. And some people just want to keep eating steak, even if it ain't real steak. And that's okay. That's okay if that's what you want. And there is
Yeah.
something to be said about defining that value system and and not using it as a measurement for others, but using it as a way to enhance your existence. Right? It's one thing to place your value system on others and then say, I'm going to devalue you because you don't live up to my value system. When in the reality is, I need to respect the fact that you don't value what I value. And I need to find people that value
Mm.
what I value because they're out there,
True.
right? Maybe not in the most
Yeah.
absolute, you know, transfer of value systems, but there's definitely people who value the things that you value. And sometimes we get so
True.
invested in people that we place these values on them that they may not value themselves. Whether it's literally them not
Yeah.
valuing themselves or them not valuing what you put on them, right? It goes both ways. I could value you. You could not value what I value in you, or you could not value your whole self. Like, oh, you don't rock with me. No, it's not that I don't rock with you. You don't rock with you, right? Or maybe I don't rock with myself. Goes both ways.
Mm.
And your perception is the defining marker. It is the rule stick, the measurement. And everybody can feel free to be like, oh no, no, they wasting their time. That's what they do. You can do that. That by all means, if that's your practice, your means of operation, by all, that's you. But I've come to learn as I center peace, love, joy, happiness, health around a value system that I'm engaged in, I'm less concerned what other people are doing and more focused on, oh, well, do we share the same values so we can share and embrace that and grow that, manifest it. We can learn from it. We can expand upon it because I want more of it. I want to give more of it. I want to give more to others and I want to receive. And
Yeah.
being clear and saying that and not being held to the pressure of not communicating and not saying it, right? Of being held to the pressure of limiting myself and saying, "Oh, well, I don't think it's going to work or I don't think they're going to like it or I don't think they feel that way." Instead, finding out, taking that risk and seeing if it even exists for them. Because a lot of times we'll discount or we'll prevent ourselves or we'll bargain with ourselves before we even have made an offer as to what we're looking for. And I think you make a really good point because it expands itself in this digital age where it is your experience. Your brain is nothing but a bunch of electric responses to the world around you. We are walking computers, hybrids. And the thing is, right, what do we make of our time? Right? It's literally choices
Mm.
and decisions. I see the game as it's played in
Yeah.
front of me. I can do as I please. And I think that for some people it might be hard to reconcile and understand that fact. But as we see, the world is definitely moving in that direction of uh, that digital perspective, that digital like identity. We've already had it. I mean, there's what dogma do belong to? Do you belong to the metaverse, which is Facebook, Instagram? Do you belong to
I
TikTok? Do you
belong to
belong
me.
to Snapchat? Do you belong to your email? What do you belong to? Your phone, right? What are you giving yourself to? What is your time consumed and spent with, right? And you're right, right? Are you giving yourself to you, or are you just
Hmm.
caution to the wind and consumed by the commercial aspect of I'm giving myself to the identity I'm creating, to the perspective, right? Like it's such
I
an
think of it.
interesting thing.
I think of it like budget and checkbook. Like when it's times to set aside savings, what what is the percentage of the day that I pay myself back, right? And then what does that look like to me? What does that look like to my loved ones? And what does it look like to the thing or the aspect of my life that I'm building upon? Like as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, um, I have to think of the business as a child, and a child needs certain things, certain nourishment, certain things to flourish, to grow, and I have to set aside time to make sure that the child is eating. If I don't feed into the business what it needs, it can't grow. Um, it's the same in relationships. It's the same um, for building new habits, right? If I need 21 days to put together a new habit, then I have to budget that into my time. My daily expenditure, not just my energy, but my time. How many hours will that take? You know, if I only need 15 minutes, 15 minutes to an hour, say well at the minimum, right? I need you know 6 minutes and some change per day, right? At the maximum, I need 27 hours. So I know, or 21 hours, sorry, 21 hours. And so if I know that I'm going to get 24 hours, and I know 8 of that is going to go to my rest, I may not be sleep throughout that rest, but I know I need 8 hours. So that 6 hour resting period, sleeping period, may then turn into 2 hour at a 2 hours where I rest, where I'm not giving to business, where I'm not giving to family, and it's not even calculated into the time I give to myself. And I think having a flow of releasing time so that it can come back to me, of releasing energy, releasing love, releasing knowledge so that it can come back to me, so that in this, in the spirit of a Christmas carol, so that I'm not Scrooge hoarding, you know, something that may benefit others by giving it away, may benefit myself by giving it away, and does nothing for anyone by me holding it or withholding it. And so if I casted the ghost of Christmas past, it would look like one of my ancestors reminding me to prioritize community. Right? If I looked at the ghost of Christmas present, you know, it would look like loved ones, right, reminding me to prioritize rest. If I looked at, if I casted the ghost of the future, it would look like an unborn child, um, reminding me to slow down and cherish moments and live in those moments as they come, for when the future arrives. That is a skill set and a mindset that I'll need navigating, having, young ones around me. Something that I can apply to the young ones that are around now. What would your ghost be? Your visiting ghost tell you if you was in the Christmas Carol?
Man, that's a tough one because it's like, which, like, I feel like the ghosts that come back to tell me so much in so many different ways. Is it get to it? Is it calm down? Is it's gonna be all right? Like, I could see a spectrum, an array of different ghosts coming to me to tell me different things. Just given how I am at any
I
given
respect
day,
it.
and it's trippy because, in keeping with the Christmas Carol theme and that idea that you said, right, of not hoarding it, you triggered a thought to what I heard in a Spaces conversation that Alicia Keys was hosting,
Mm.
and Jay-Z had brought up record executive Doug Morris in a conversation he had with Doug Morris when trying to buy back his first album. He was trying to buy back the rights. And there was a discrepancy over $1 million. I'm paraphrasing, but Jay-Z told
Mm-hmm.
Doug Morris, I'm not going to fight you over $1 million. And Doug Morris, who right now is 83 years old, said to Jay-Z at the time, which may have been 10 years ago, so we could say 70s, maybe even, yeah, about 10 years ago, 70, we could have been 73, said to Jay-Z, I'll fight you for $1 million. Right? Doug Morris, an executive who I believe at the time was the head of Universal Music Group, right? He's been a CEO of Sony Music Entertainment, RCA, Jive, you name it. He's been in the industry for a long while. From Atlantic Records to now having a different, what is it, 12 Tone Music Group, where he signed Anderson Paak, right? Anderson Paak just recently released a project with Bruno Mars. This man has been around and he's telling Jay-Z, right? I'll fight you for $1 million. It could be $1 million off. This we could be saying that your project is worth 50 million, 10 million, $12 million, but it better not be $9 million if I say it's 10. It better not be 11 million if I say it's 12. Right. And speaking to that, right, knowing that there are people who will maintain, right? Because in their perspective, they don't see themselves as Scrooge. They see Scrooge as a fictional character that has no relevancy or relation to who they are,
Mm,
even if they mirror each
mm,
other and the actions and the habits in the story. Right? They scoff at the boy who at little Timmy who might be limping. They might do so much in so many different ways to show up as a hoarder of wealth. Yet for those in the world, right? It's like my ghost comes back to me to tell me something, and it's like I can see that it's a critique on what I'm doing to help me better myself
mm,
at a somewhat more rapid rate, knowing that I'm not the one to to hoard, the one to keep away from, right? I'm the one to give access to. I'm the one to,
mm,
you know, you ask anybody, I'm gonna find a way to get you in a position. I'm gonna get you in the room. I'm gonna get you in a conversation. I'm gonna get you an opportunity, leveraging my own, leveraging who I am, right? Knowing that it's a risk, it's a chance, but I'm gonna do it. That's what I do because I see that for
yeah.
me, it's about accessibility, right? And I see for me, it's like, yeah, the Christmas is the holiday, but the present at every waking moment is the gift, right? And it's easy to lose sight that, yeah, oh, I gotta do this because of the moment, because that's what the world is telling me, or that's what the societal agreement is at this moment. But once January 2nd comes, oh well, it's over. Nah, not for me, right?
Mm,
That energy is going to be carried with me. The gift giving and however it exists will still be there. I'll find a way to show up, be present, and give as I can. Right? Give and gift go hand in hand. Um, and it's one of those things where I really see the ghost in me being like, hey, you know that thing you're doing? Look, just do this one thing. Boom, we get into it faster than we got to it the first time around. Because to me, this space, as everything that I do, it's about healing. It's about harm reduction. It's about creating time and space for people to have something that's a little bit more nurturing. Because yeah, it's like we live in a world where this easily could have been a podcast where we critique and talk about people in a way that may be demeaning, harmful, or disrespectful, or picking apart who they are for the sake of entertainment and not for the sense of like growth and healing and like learning, right? And that's cool if people do that, but that's not who I am. That's not what I'm about. My music is not a reflection of how I'm gonna kill you. It's a reflection of how I'm gonna heal you or how you learn to heal yourself. And I think that, yeah, I think my ghost of Christmas past coming to me to be like, hey, just need you to you see your form right here. We just need you right here, 90-degree
mm.
angle, perfect. Get to it. That's how I see it. I mean, what's your ghost
Tighten
coming
it
back to
up.
tell you? What's your ghost coming back to say that our fluent ghost to Christmas future?
Yeah. So I said my ghost of Christmas future is coming back coming to me looking like coming from the future, like a unborn child, right? Reminding me to slow down,
That's
so
right.
that I experience each moment, so that when the future comes, I don't miss it. Um, when tomorrow comes, you know, I I treat it like forever. Um, and right, say forever is a long time, but anything that I want to experience for a lifetime starts with being present with it today. You know, because if I can be fully present with it in the time, space, and the moment, then I get to keep it forever. And as soon as I punch out, clock out, check out, zone out, I miss the opportunity to keep that moment, keep the memory forever. I missed the opportunity to add it to my budget. I missed the opportunity you know, to make it a line item for the future. Say, okay, because I experienced this, I can say, oh, I want more moments like this. Let me put this in the time in my time budget and say, this is gonna be something that in my fiscal year, say this is gonna be something that happens to me. This is something that I'm experienced. This is something that I also want to experience with others. Right? It's like we had we had a versus battle with Dipset and the Locks. You see the quality of performance is different from a generation to another. That's basically the difference in the the battle or the competition, right? Is the performance acumen. Because if the acumen is there, then from a song to song lineup perspective, the competition and showmanship matches up. Because it's not like there's not enough bars to go around. It's not that. It's not that there's not enough beats to go around. But just like in a baseball match or baseball game, if you got the wrong batter against the wrong pitcher, that's on you. Because you got the scouting report and you know every pitch they throw and every pitch that they struggle with. So whichever side you on, if you got the wrong person up there, that's on you. If you got the wrong song or the wrong verse, right, that's on you. And if you got somebody who you got a team that's made up of veterans, they gonna know how to make you pay for your mistake. And every opening that you give them, they go punish you for it. That's in any competition.
Make them miss,
And
make them pay.
when you compete against yourself, you got that's it. When you competing against yourself, you got to know your tendencies to slip up so that you don't leave any openings for you to falter. You got to know your own patterns inside and out. Like keeping with sports and veterans, you look at someone who played over 15 years in the NBA, like a Vince Carter or a Tim Duncan, who basically practice every possible way that practice against every possible way that somebody could guard him, so that he had a way to score. He practiced against double teams and traps and triple teams and passing from every situation, and then also shooting from every situation, so that he could score efficiently. And because even if you don't score a lot, if you score efficiently, then it allows you to make another person open. And I think when we do that in community, when we make moves efficiently, we allow for those around us to get open and score as well. But if we don't score efficiently, if we don't use our time wisely, if we are, you know, don't use our skill sets, we don't understand how the defense of the system is coming at us, we don't know the game, we don't look at the scouting report, whenever we win, we're gonna be winning by ourselves. And whenever we lose, it's gonna be a whole bunch of people losing right there with us, or not around to support us, because it's a team game. So if you don't know the game, you're not gonna move as a unit. And that for me, that's all I'm trying to make sure I do is have a team around me. You know, everybody don't have to have the same role. Everybody don't have to have the same, uh, I guess, same mindset, but they can all have a shared work ethic, um, and commitment to consistency that shows up in what they're passionate and called to, passionate about and called to. I think that's what the common factors in the people around me, that they acknowledge what they're called to, and they commit to consistency and efforts, towards that.
Yeah, I would have to say that's probably been one of the hardest things for me is when going back to what I said earlier about, working hard, outperforming is when sometimes there's that drop off. I admit it's also about going to seek out and finding. And sometimes you may not be in the place to seek out or find people to build a team, because there can be moments when you have to learn how to do things on your own. And in my mind, I want to know how it's done. So when I'm asking somebody for something, I know
Hmm.
exactly what I'm asking for, right? Because I think you make a valid point around having people who can match your work ethic and having people who can support and be a team player and having a team. And for me, as I've always done, because I like to share and give access, I also want to know if there's something that anyone needs, what is that? What does it work? How does it work? What needs to be done to make that happen? Because
Hmm.
when it comes time to find someone, I have an awareness of an expectation or a language or a creed or a culture or energy or methods or practice because those things like make a difference. And sometimes people are afraid of that. People are afraid of trying their hand at something, doing something. And the reason why I say that is because that could get in the way of having a team or building a community of support around what you need or what you want. And I think people have to be willing to communicate explicitly and vividly around what that is for themselves and to the people around them to let them know. Because yeah, I've had experience where having a team, you have people who say they're down, but when it comes to their actions, you start to realize there's there's a lot more that needs to be done to make sure that we're on the same team, right? We could be trying to play on the same team but not have the necessary skills or the abilities to keep up. And then it comes around the honesty and the communication to identify and to be able to admit what is going on. And so yeah, just food for thought on top of food for thought. Because it is necessary to have a community. It's necessary to have people, a circle, whatever you want to call it, around you that are supporting in different ways. But it's also, having a keen eye to identify when that might not be enough or when you need to step it up. Because yeah, it's like it's easy to lose sight of that. I feel like you struck a nerve in a way where I've heard so many people say, "Oh, this is what I need," and then when it comes time to say, "Oh, well, actually, this is what you could do," yeah, nah, that ain't me. And it's like, oh, maybe that's why you don't have a team, right? Not saying for all, but for some, you have to really be keen and aware of what you're asking others of, because it's easy to just say, "Oh, you're an expert at it," and then not value their expertise, not value the exertion of the energy of what it is that they're giving up when you ask for them to do something or to be a part of something.
That's
I
real.
think it's something that is easy to overlook and not be aware of. And I also think that yeah, you got to have a level at all times of self awareness. But in this method, it means it's knowing your limits and knowing what you're willing to do and how that looks when it comes to receiving or working with.
For sure. Yeah, I think for me, knowing within my hyper observancy that that is something that I can use to process what's happening around me quickly, uh, to then explain, you know, to someone else who may not see everything or hear everything that I'm hearing or see, or acknowledge everything that's happening, and to express it in a way that they know what I'm talking about and is capable of see what I see now, or at least perceive what I perceive. And they don't have to agree with me, but at least they know what I am now perceiving. Um, and if I can express it in a way to help them better understand, then then we take the next step with more understanding. And I think that's been my role often as a leader, is to be able to communicate a situation so that everyone knows what their next step is. And
Know your
I can do
role.
yeah, I can do that in a paper bag.
It's yeah, it's important. I think it's important to like just have that sense of awareness. I mean, especially as you make that reference to like uh you know having a bank account and having a checking book. Um, for those that don't know, back in the days when you got an account, they give you a little book that helps you keep track of every purchase and or every check you sent out. And The thing is, I remember being a young person, right? And having the ability to track my account spending at the bank. I remember when I had that to go through, right? You cover up numbers because you don't want to, people gonna be like, oh, right on. Let me get that transfer. But it is one of those things where I totally remember like having that little book where you put what did you gain, what did you give, and balancing a checkbook. Like people don't know that because it's automatically done for you. It's an automated system now, right? Just like a deposit slip, right? You would write out the deposit and you would deposit in your bank account. Now you just go to ATM and it's going to do everything for you. Um, it's just these things that we used to do, these things became
Thing.
practices that would become transferable skills in other realms of your life. And we speak on it because
I'm
yeah,
not
like
used
yeah,
to automatic. I'm still not used to automatic stuff.
like people take pictures of their check to deposit their check when at one point you had to write a slip that literally mirrored the check to deposit into your account. The world is a much different place. And it's just those practices,
This is my duplicates.
yeah, right? Which you already did, right? Which already been done, right? You can see in a physical form what the transactions were. And that's the thing is that like, right, this isn't to shame or shade nobody. It's just for people to like realize we all want to check, but the real flex is when you can sign the check. Like think about it, right? You want it, but who's the one giving it, right? Because it could be you. It could be you. And I think that is important because then that lets you know that you are the giver, the harbor of the wealth. You are the harbinger, right? You are the one that is facilitating the transaction. Cause I think it's easy to lose sight, right? Like, oh, I'm getting checks. Yeah, I'm signing checks, right? And it's not to denounce one for the other. It's to know that you can do that. You can empower yourself to get to the point where you're able to give wealth, where you're not seeking it out and trying to receive it as someone gives it to you, but you are the literal source of it. I just think it's important for people to feel empowered and to know they have the power to do those things. And I think, yeah, having a checking book, like balancing an account, like that is like that was one of the first, like, because, being an entrepreneur, yeah, you have a business, you got to pay taxes. Like so many times have these conversations with younger individuals who don't maybe not have as much experience. And the number one thing is, oh, why I got to do this? And I'm like, that is the cost to participate as you learn and figure out how to navigate the different systems that can act as tax exempt functions or forms for your money, right? Where you understand that this is a game of movement. It's not a game of stationary. It's not a game of having. It's a game of what your name is attached to and how you're moving it around. Because that's literally what it comes down to, right? As we talk about all these different things and really understanding like value, right? Because there's a monetary value associated to our existence in this form, in this realm. Like we are on a digital platform that if you are listening to this after it's been recorded or you're listening to it live, there was a transaction you made to have that happen, whether that's the data that you have on your phone, the internet that you paid for, the device that is actually facilitating this conversation. Like the value is already there. Just making sure that you have that value of yourself, right? Because that's the greatest value of all, right? The thing doesn't make you, you make you, right? The phone could change, but that don't mean you changed, right? You could move somewhere else. That don't mean that you've moved within yourself. So I think that, as we start to hone in on those different perspectives and those different components of who we are, it's important to really reflect and understand, like, yeah, like, nah, it ain't about that thing. It's about you. Alfluent, do you have any final thoughts for the 80th episode of Lyrical Ones?
We just out here breaking records like Flash 80 of the 49ers, Hall of Fame style. As long as we keep giving them these touchdowns, more touchdowns than anybody's ever been given. I'm just real grateful, right? Because you need a team, right? Nobody's scoring touchdowns by themselves. I mean, Mike Vick scored a lot of touchdowns by himself. I will give you that. Um, but the ones scoring the most touchdowns, right, are doing it with teammates. And as we come into the year, the 80s have always been very significant. You know, um, a lot of times, you turn the number 8 sideways, right? It looks like the infinity sign in the skate. And I think as we move forward, we're talking about the past and the present and the future, talking about, greatness and longevity and consistency and, the ability to compete with your catalog. Um, you got to be aware of, your hits. Because when the time comes and somebody asks you, recount your hits, and you come with some mid tracks, right? They go, scratch their head, they go check out. And even if it's a reflection of you and you not being aware of your hits, it's also a reflection of them and their ability to stay in the moment. And that's what exchange is about, I think. Being able to give proper feedback to your people and say, this is a hit, this is not a hit, this is mid. You know, you got to be able to do that. And so if you got folks around that you can't pass the ball to, you can't hand the ball off to, that don't block for you, it's hard to tell them about themselves, with some kindness uh, and some thoughtfulness, with the intent to be helpful and kind, um, sharing what's important and sharing what's necessary for their growth. Right? It's like the acronym, THINK. Before you say something, think. Make sure it's thoughtful, helpful, important, necessary, and kind. So think about it before you speak. You know, that's all I gotta say. Episode 80. What you want to tell them, Sin?
You better think. Um, yeah,
Think about what you're trying to do to me.
for real. It's important to think. Head heavy thoughts. I wear my head. I wear my head on my head. I wear my heart on my head. I guess I'm heart headed. Um, yeah. Shout out to the people who, out there performing, doing their thing, and a special shout out to those who do it without backing tracks. So that's all I want to say. For those that have the breath control and the expertise and the songwriting ability, that foresight to know that you're going to perform these songs and entertain people. You've definitely inspired me, Affluent, to release some videos tonight, and yeah, I just think it's important, right? Episode 80. Love yourself, be loved, share love, give love, and yeah, think about it. Think about what is it that you're giving. So yeah, that um, as we often do at this time, and this is one of those times where there's a prolonged situation where I'm like, oh yeah, I was getting to it, but I ain't getting
Ooh,
to it.
nice. Give them that delay and give them that intro, that long intro. Give them that extended one time for the one time for the 80th time. Do it. One, 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 one.
Oh, we made it to the whole thing, and we're still here. Okay, it's still going. I
Oh
hope y'all
yeah,
enjoyed my
we got the
blinging eye
aftermath,
dance.
the
Uh,
aftermatch beat up, the aftermatch beat up. Pull out the chairs
107.
and the tables. Pull out
32.
the
I know.
sledgehammer.
Get the get the
Ring the
get the ring
bell.
bell.
Ring
Ding
the
ding 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 ding
get
ding.
the ring bell. Hit him over the head with the ring bell, Jim Ross style. It's a good
Yeah.
old fashioned slobber knocker.
It's a slobber knocker. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. It's a slobber knocker.
All
Yeah,
right,
I guess y'all here for
lyrical ones.
the episode 80 aftermath.
We love y'all.
The the I mean, yeah. Episode 80.
I'm out.
It's been
Happy
real.
holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas,
Happy
Kwanzaa,
holidays.
Hanukkah, everything.
Love you,
New
bro.
Year, Lunar New Year. Love y'all. Love you.
Peace. Peace. Peace.
It's, brought to you by the good folks of Lyrical Opposition. Um, Copyright date December 22nd, 2021. Be well, y'all. I don't know if I leave the studio, will this continue on? If I do this, with this in the show, I don't know. I I but the thing, like,